Hi everyone, welcome to episode 10 of Startup Playbook TV. I'm your host Rohit Bhargava, and today I'll be chatting to Oliver Garside, the co-founder and COO of Rounded. Today we'll be talking about long-term versus short-term tactics for growth, building communities, and using data to form strategy. Hi Ollie, welcome to Startup Playbook TV and thanks for being here.
No worries, Rohit. Thanks for having me.
So for those people watching at home, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and what you're working on at the moment?
Sure, yeah. I'm Ollie Garside, currently COO and co-founder of rounded.com.au, which is an accounting platform designed specifically for freelancers and sole traders.
Fantastic. And so what, we've known each other for a little while, but what sort of stage is the business at the moment?
Yep, so I guess we've been live in the market for just over a year. We launched our MVP in about February, March of 2016, which was when I came on board and joined the other three guys in the business. We've certainly spent most of last year polishing and getting the product into ship shape, so I think that we're MVP plus 2 or 3 iterations, but that obviously process never stops. So we're certainly in business. We've got a reasonable number of paying customers, and we believe we've got a fairly solid proof of concept on a small scale.
Yep.
So the challenge for us is now to turn this into a viable, profitable, successful business.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. Very exciting. Yeah.
So what are you sort of grappling with at the moment?
So I think scale, but specifically scale on a budget. So we don't have huge amounts of money as many of our competitors do to throw adverts on the radio and the TV and own every single Google AdWord that there is. Yeah. So we have to be very considered and we think quite clever about how we invest our funds in advertising, but we're also looking at other things that we can do using our own backgrounds and professional expertise to establish ourselves as a leader in the space, as a thought leader in the space, on some small, sort of probably more medium and long-term partnerships and content plays as well. Yep. That will enable us to build our brand, to build our presence.
Sure.
And hopefully build our business.
Sure. And so what are you kind of doing at the moment, and how effective are those sort of channels in terms of getting new users on or retaining your users that you have?
Yeah, well look, how effective they are, I might have to come back in 12 months and tell you. But yeah, look, we're certainly carrying on with the short-term stuff, and we're about to sort of double down a bit on some digital advertising and some social media things. We see that very much as our short-term play. In the medium and long term, we're looking at some partnerships that will help us establish ourselves as a brand in the space. So I don't know if you know Cameron at Freelance Australia.
I don't.
Okay, so freelanceaustralia.org.au is a non-profit designed to support the freelancers, to help networking, to help with education. Mm-hmm. And we've got to know them over the last year, and they have been, they put together a couple of events called National Freelance Day, which we really loved the concept of, but they had their own challenges, and we went to them at the end of last year with a proposal that really said, look, we kind of identified that we have some skills that you don't, and we think that together, we can really make this event a great event if we work together as partners on it. Yeah. And so, later this year in Melbourne and maybe even in Sydney, look out for National Freelance Day, which will be coming your way soon.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it will be, very much about networking, about education. I think the theme we agreed was scaling solo. Yeah. So for freelancers and sole traders, how do you build and scale your own business to a point where it can sustain your lifestyle and everything else that you want? So, that should be really good, helping us, establishing us as somebody that's, not just a provider of great software, but also, people that have a vested interest in helping the freelance community thrive. Yeah. In the longer term, we're just about to release next week the ourworkingfuture.com.au survey, mm-hmm. Which is our attempt to really get some meaningful data around what the effect of the gig economy is on the workforce, what the effect of the gig economy is on employers out there, to understand more about who's suitable to try working in the gig economy or as a freelancer or a sole trader, to understand how different people see themselves in the gig economy. So you might have somebody who's on Airtasker who might clean a couple of windows or just do a job for a little bit of beer money, right the way through to those professional, full-time, serious, solid freelancers who have built a career of working for themselves. So that there's so much we don't know, and there's so much we would love to understand more. So that survey goes out next week, and we hope it becomes an annual thing. We hope that we're able to provide some really meaningful insights to the whole professional community around what's happening with the economy, and we also hope, obviously from our point of view, that it helps establish us even further as a leading light and a leading player in that world.
Sure. And so are those the kind of two main channels that you guys are operating on? Or?
Yeah, I would say, as the sort of the medium and long-term plays right now. We've got, a couple of potential things which probably aren't solid enough for me to worth mentioning now in terms of some corporate partnerships. But, when you start dealing with, large listed organizations, you're sort of at the beck and call and the whim of them when you're a small startup. So, might be something, might not be, but we'll wait and see.
Sure. So, when you talk about sort of scale and growth of Rounded as a company, what does that tangibly look like for you guys as a business from the stage that you're currently at to where you want to be in like 6 months or 12 months time?
You mean from a growth point of view?
From a growth, yeah.
Yeah. So, ultimately everything that we do, we have to run it through a fairly harsh lens of, is this going to get us users? Yeah. If so, is it a short-term play? And again, like a social media campaign where it's probably quite easier to track tangible metrics and to understand what success looks like based on the digital journey that your audience will take, through to, okay, well, this is a more medium-term play and it's less tangible because it's around a conference and because there's multiple brands and multiple. It's not just about us. It's actually very much about other people, and the brand awareness and exposure is probably secondary, and the same with the survey. So, but I believe very much, and what Grant and Nick, who my co-founders, believe is that we can't just rely on one. We need to have that. The only way you get a solid foundation is by certainly in the type of business that we are, is to really try and work really hard up front to establish different areas of expertise.
Yeah. Well, in terms of so if I was working with you guys and helping you guys with growth, the first place that I would kind of start with is who are your customers? And I think that's a really clear. What I like about you guys is that you have a very clear definition of you're there for freelancers.
Absolutely. So
to me, I think the next phase would be so take Rounded away. What do freelancers need and what adds them value?
Yep.
And so as a freelancer, I assume that you have a lot of questions about business, about different components, some of which are solved by Rounded, but there are also just different sort of components of that. And freelancers generally, it's a very lonely journey because by nature you're a freelancer, you're on your own. And so I think there's a really interesting sort of, what you're kind of aiming to do around the event is sort of bring together a community of freelancers. I think what will be really powerful as an overarching theme of what Rounded could potentially do is build up, you've mentioned sort of thought leadership and kind of being the go-to place. It would be interesting if you could kind of create a community around freelancers who, regardless of whether it's questions about, things that Rounded provides, just becomes the number one resource for freelancers globally to access information, to access different things. I think if you became the player that essentially brings in different sort of partners of other businesses that, AirTax with PwC, for example, that looks after the sort of tax obligations. Yeah. Is there an opportunity for you to be that centerpiece for all freelancers in Australia or in the region, for other people to kind of see that and trust you, and you become that source, and then that elevates you when you talk about sort of doing that through the event of building credibility. I think that's a really powerful piece. So if that's the overarching thing, how do you then achieve that?
Yeah,
is the next part, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I think that, and this is really interesting because I think that we've realised that although you can have this sort of super great big sort of horizon goal of exactly what you've described, you can't look too far ahead.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think we realized in the last year is that doing a few small things well open up opportunities for you to do other things well.
Yeah.
So, last year we concentrated very much on product. I was learning, it's my first foray into accounting, my first foray into the freelance world, and I felt a bit like a fish out of water. So I was finding my way and understanding a different way of communicating and understanding what the community and our customers needed. Grant was head deep in making sure that we had a brilliant product, and all of that time making sure that every time one of our customers sent us a note or a query or a question, that we answered it as quickly as we could, that we listened to them, that we made them feel like they were part of this.
Sure.
And what that's done is help us get to a point where we now have just over 300 paying customers. We've literally, it's been like ticking every single one. We still know every single one of their names.
Right.
We've seen a stat from our little thing, sort of our customer management software, that we respond to 98.7 customer queries within 1 minute, which we were really proud of. But what that's done is built this nice little community. The hardcore of that are really, really passionate. All of our growth has come through customer referrals, or 90% of it. We've done a little bit of Facebook and stuff, but not much.
Yeah.
And what that's allowed us to do is to say, okay, well, we know that this is right. We know that on a small scale, and now we can actually take the steps and the confidence that that's given us to think of things that are more sophisticated, like the National Freelance Day or the ourworkingfuture.com.au survey.
Sure. But I mean, I agree. Like, I think when it comes to community, though, everyone thinks like, okay, then that means we need 100,000 people, right? It all starts organically and kind of builds organically.
Yep.
And what you kind of mentioned about, we're building towards this event, which for me is like, it's great and has a lot of potential, but that's a one-off event that you do annually.
Yep.
Like, you're building all of the year around one event that like you haven't done yet, as opposed to kind of doing smaller pieces of like, can you do content marketing?
Yep.
That is like, what can you put out a weekly piece of valuable information to freelancers that will keep people constantly engaged with you.
Yep.
Versus a one-off exercise that, for whatever reason you might miss a bunch of freelancers because that just kind of falls in the time that they can't make that particular event or those sort of things as well. So I agree, like I 100% agree with like, doing kind of smaller pieces and it sort of being built organically. I think what you guys are kind of doing, and the fact that you've had such a really strong referral engine is a testament to like the great work that you're doing on the community side. I think it's a focus of like, when you look at that from a growth perspective of like, what are things that you can do to add to that? It feeds into the system of what are the things that you're kind of doing now? What do they sort of value, and what are different ways or platforms, or again, events work. Like I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it in the sense of like the conference work. I'm just saying, that's one particular tactic. Like, what are other things that you guys can be doing consistently to help position you as that thought leader, as the go-to person, as the person that's kind of fostering that community?
And you've probably hit on quite a you've probably uncovered an area of weakness for us, because one of the things we found and quite conscious of is that you can do yourself damage if you're just putting out content for content's sake. And an area that we are trying to improve, sometimes successfully, sometimes aren't, is being able to put out our own content and trying to make it useful and authentic and all of those things that great content is. We're big fans of an organization called Intercom, which we use to manage our customers. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They do, in my mind, some of the best content around customer experience and customer management around, and they have a whole team of people putting out these white papers and things like that. But it's definitely part of their brand, and I'm always value the content that we have, and we'd love to be there. We're not there yet, and I think a lot of it with content is just practice, but. Yeah, it's hard to do. It's hard to do yourself.
It's exceptionally hard to do.
And it's hard. Even if we look at our blog and some of the posts that we put out last year, we look at it now and it's sort of a bit it's a bit too much about us. and it's, you know, not that it's not authentic, but you know, you think about it with the lens of what do our users or what do our community get out of this, and if you're being realistic, maybe not that much. So I absolutely agree that a sort of a content marketing strategy is key to that, and I've done quite a bit of reading on it, Joe Polizzi and Content Marketing Institute and all of that, and in theory, it's, you know, it should all be quite easy, but it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, you're talking to someone who puts out a weekly podcast,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like on his own, I wouldn't be able to do these videos without Tony, who's behind the camera, who does all the amazing work. Like, content is very, very difficult. But like with anything, I think it's the consistency that adds value. So no one blog post, you know, unless if you're very lucky and have something that goes viral, you know, it's very difficult to have one blog post that you can kind of put a pillar behind and go, yes, our content marketing strategy works.
Yeah.
It's more, you know, consistently, as you mentioned, you know, you'll get better over time.
Yep.
But the value of that just builds and grows and accumulates the more content and the more sort of consistent that you are with that. So
absolutely.
And that content can come in a lot of different forms as well. So it doesn't just need to be written. It could be a podcast. It could be a video series. It could be, you know, different forms. And, you know, one of the biggest things as well is repurposing that content into different ways. So a lot of what we do with clients at the moment is we start with, you know, blogs are usually the easiest to do.
Yep.
We then turn the most engaging blog posts into higher forms of content. So, you know, can we turn them into ebooks, or can we then turn them into different things that we'll then run Facebook ads against, because we know that that's what the audience engages with more effectively. So yeah, it's always, you know, content is very, very difficult, but are there ways that you can kind of position that differently, or what's kind of adding the most value, and what are different ways that you can deliver that to people? But for me, like, I think growth and marketing and everything in general just comes from, you know, who's your audience, what gives them value, and how can you bring what you're doing, you know, get it in front of them and engage them in a way that they actively want to sort of engage with that. As you said, with, like, you know, it's very easy to a degree to put out content, but if no one's reading it, no one's consuming it, it's not that useful.
No, exactly right.
So, and that's another part of that as well is, you know, you could have a content strategy in place, or you could do a conference and things like that. But the next part of that is, like, how do you actually distribute that out through the right channels? How do you get it in front of the right people? Can you do that through partnerships? Can you do that through your own community group? You know, what are the different channels that you sort of have? That's something that's often overlooked is, you know, people will write 5 blog posts and they'll just put it on their website and go, well, no one's coming here. Content marketing doesn't work. But again, everything works. It's just there's more to it.
Absolutely, and it's I think with so much content out there, you know, I think you've also got to take a step back as a consumer of content and understand, well, what content is it that I engage with and look forward to, and why is it, and also how does that affect my perception of the brand that produces this content and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that being able to marry both sides of that equation is probably another skill that you can get better at too.
So I mean, like, you know, you see this, it's not just with content, it's on social as well, right? Like, I mean, you'll see a lot of companies or founders that as soon as they start posting from their company page, it's all about their product. It's like, you know, check out our amazing product, sign up now, here's a discount, and they wonder why, like, no one engages or why they don't build up their following. Where when they're looking at their own habits, when they're going through their own personal account, they're, you know, following other accounts that provide them with entertainment, information, inspiration, whatever it is. And it's really interesting how people kind of can't make that same leap. And, you know, looking at it from a consumer's perspective of, like, you know, again, what do freelancers value? What would bring them the biggest return, and then again, how does that impact your brand and your positioning within that space, regardless of whether that's, you know, directly about Rounded or not. Oh,
absolutely. Well, we have Grant, who's the founder of Rounded. One of the first blog posts that he wrote was about, I think it's entitled, "Can I expense my coffee?" You know, and just a very simple blog post about, you know, as a freelancer, what can you put into your tax deductions? And that's the blog post on our website that gets, still to this day, gets the most hits, regardless of everything else that we put out.
So I mean, like, you know, even just using data like that, I would go, okay, cool. Like, if that works, what are other topics, like, similarly that you can talk about? So maybe you do a series of blog posts about different items that people consume day to day, and figuring out whether they can actually claim that as part of the expense report or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So again, like, it's really easy to come up with a strategy and, like, base assumptions of things, what I generally recommend is like, again, people's actions are much more telling than what you say what they say that they're going to do, or what you think that they're going to do. So even when you're sort of running different Facebook ads and things like that, like we always A/B test different things and test different markets and test different things. And oftentimes when I've thought, okay, this is going to be an amazing Facebook ad, it performs a lot lower than some of the other ads that I thought, which just outperform anything that we sort of put out. So I think it's really kind of important to have some sort of data that you collect and then understand why. So again, collecting data for data's sake isn't useful, but one of the things that I would dive into that would be like, why is it that blog post gets the most traction?
Yep.
Is it, did you have a specific distribution strategy for that just helped? Or is it the actual subject matter? And then if it is the subject matter, what can you sort of extrapolate out from that you can then sort of create a theme around the different content that you
Yeah, well, it's certainly the subject matter because we haven't promoted it. So it's organic views that the thing gets.
Which to me would make, like, I mean, I'm really curious to find out what the sort of response to that is. And I'm sure there are other sort of freelancers that are kind of claiming this, wondering the same sort of thing. So
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I will. Perfect. So, Ollie, for anyone that wants to get in touch, find out more about Rounded, or if they're a freelancer, sign up to the platform.
Yep. So,
what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. Well, rounded.com.au is our main website, and we'll be putting out some more information about the survey too, which is ourworkingfuture.com.au.
Perfect. Make sure those links are in the show notes. If you like the episode today, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ollie, thanks a lot for coming in.
Cheers, Rohit. Thanks for your time.
Everything with Rounded.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.